Dumelang Sambanani. Hello, South Africa. A very warm welcome to Expressions. This is definitely the place for you to air your views. I'm your host, Jacqueline Mapala.
And I'm your host, Mkolisi Wagamasango. Now, we are coming to you from our headquarters in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. Now, namhlanje, we are tackling the burning issue of vaccine hesitancy. Siyabuzage, is the youth assisting South Africa in the fight against vaccine hesitancy? Have you been vaccinated or are planning to do that? Please let us know.
So that's a very important question because we know that the government has actually opened vaccinations to people who are over 18 years old. Now, there's been a lot of hesitancy, of course, among other people who are above that particular age group. But our president has actually applauded young people in this country because apparently young people in this country, you are enthusiastic about actually getting vaccinated, right, Mko?
Senjaloge, we also took to the street to find out what do young people have to say. Take a look at this. Okay, so are young South Africans doing enough to help South Africa in the fight against vaccine hesitancy? That is the big question as today's stop takes us to Auckland Park, right where the SABC is. As you can see behind me, it's a hive of activity where we're seeing some people coming in for the very first day of the vaccination drive here at the public broadcaster today. Why do you think it's very important for people to get their jabs, especially as a young person?
For herd immunity, so we can get back to some sort of normality. Yeah, just to protect us.
I just think it's the socially responsible thing to do. I think if everyone can get on board, then the process will go a lot faster.
Let's get vaccinated, people.
My husband got it a couple of weeks ago, so I'm here partly because of him. He's been pestering me to come, and majorly because this is our only shot of beating this thing, so yeah, that's why I'm here.
Are we doing enough as South Africans to help the fight against vaccine hesitancy?
I don't know, I think the government is trying, but then you've got social media, you know, so many people are going on about a whole host of other things. So people get scared because, I mean, we are a generation that is highly influenced by social media. So if maybe social media and whoever posts there becomes responsible, that might change the narrative and change perspective.
We literally just saw you getting your jab. Are young people really doing enough to help South Africa against vaccine hesitancy?
I think young people are doing enough. You've been seeing memes, I'm sure. Everyone is like energized to come and vaccinate. And like there are positive responses because they really want to come so that they can maybe have time to go to group, prepare for exams, because we might have like sitting examinations. So it's their time to come vaccinate.
Premier, thank you so much for your time. We are asking today, are we doing enough to ensure that, young South Africans assist in the fight against vaccine hesitancy?
I want to commend the millennials. When we opened for them on Friday, the 20th, our vaccination sites were buzzing. We have done, on that first day, we hit the largest daily vaccination number of 71,000 in Gauteng. The millennials are great. They're taking charge of their own future. They are also inspiring us to say the future belongs to them.
There you have it. We've spoken to almost everybody, people who had come in to vaccinate, and we've also had word from the Gauteng Premier, spoke about the importance of young people in particular, heeding the call to get vaccinated. Let's get this conversation started.
So those were some of the comments from young people on the streets. But of course, to help me unpack this very important issue, I'm joined by Dr. Sipho Sinabe, who is the Chief Director from the Department of Health. And I'm also joined by Versatile Nkwinika, who is a virologist. A very warm welcome to Expressions, lady and gentleman.
Thank you very much.
I love representation, by the way. I love it. And of course, we know that we never do this by myself. I want to say hello to Mko and his audience. Hey, Mko.
Hey Jackie, we are standing by with a host of young people joining me in the audience today. Guys, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us on Expressions today. Jackie, let's get the conversation started.
Let's get this conversation started. Dr. Sipo, I think let's start here. I mean, the president obviously is applauding young people for being enthusiastic about getting vaccinated, but there's still a lot of, I guess, concerns, and there's a lot of stigma around, vaccination. I think from your point of view, how do we overcome some of these hurdles around vaccination and having fears around vaccination?
Thank you very much. I think the biggest, way to overcome the barrier towards vaccination is to have correct information, and just to have also understanding of the benefits of vaccines. They are basically there to ensure that, people, if they get infected, they do not have serious disease, and they do not get hospitalized, and also don't die. So it's to reduce the chances of all those three things happening. It does not stop infection itself, but that is our biggest benefit, that people don't die, they don't get seriously ill, and also if they do get ill, they do not get to hospital.
And versatile, I mean, a lot of people are saying, well, why should they be vaccinating if it doesn't prevent exactly what Dr. Sipo has just at least explained just now?
That's a very important question, because, that's where most of the worries are. Why am I doing this? And the truth is, as Dr. Sipo has mentioned, it's to reduce those things. So without vaccination, we have like multiple spreaders. And without vaccination, the chances of you dying from the actual disease is very high as opposed to when you have vaccinated. So it's very important for us as young people to actually understand the background, what happens, what is the purpose of vaccination. Once we know that and we understand that, it is easier for us to actually see the benefits as well, because it's not about you, first of all, only you basically, because when you're vaccinated, you're protecting those around you as well. You might be lucky to survive COVID-19, hey, but the next person who gets it from you might not be as lucky. Yeah.
So wait, does vaccination prevent you from spreading COVID? So if I get vaccinated today, does that mean I'm not going to, if I have COVID, I won't spread it? Dr. Sipo?
So the issue of spreading, you can still be infected, and you could still be able to spread it to others. So yes, in other countries where they have already vaccinated their population, the infections does happen, but you will also see that the deaths and the serious illnesses and hospitalization has actually reduced. So yes, it is possible that you could still be able to get infected and transmit it, but we want that if that happens, that people are less likely to die, go to hospital, and have serious illness.
And Versatile, you're a virologist, right? Out of the myths that are out there where young people are being exposed to information that tells them that it's your choice, you don't have to do it. Actually, even if you get vaccinated, you'll still die. Let's clarify some of those myths. Let's address some of those myths.
So just to clarify some of the myths that are going out there, I just want to highlight this one particular myth about vaccinations and altering your DNA and all of that stuff. So one thing that we need to understand with RNA vaccines, let's start off there, is that with the RNA, it does not in any way interact with your DNA at all. So there is no way it would alter your DNA. So once the RNA gets in the body, does its job of letting the body know about how to make the spike protein, which is like a signal for the body to see the coronavirus and attack it when it comes in your body. So once it does its job, it gets degraded by the body almost immediately. So there is no way that it gets into your DNA. So that is one of the biggest myths that people are worried about.
And I hope as Expressions, we are starting to help you to sort of decipher some of those myths. And I think, thank you so much for actually clarifying that, because I think a lot of what we're doing in terms of vaccination is not only just about you, but it's also about protecting people around you. And of course, as Expressions, we're asking you, Kochai, as a young person, are you helping in the fight against vaccination? And are you hesitant as a young person? Hopefully, by watching this show, you are less hesitant and you have more information. We'll be back right after this. You're watching Expressions.
Welcome back. You're still watching Expressions, your number one youth current affairs show. Now, on the discussion table, namhlanje, siyabuza ke, are young people helping South Africa in the fight against vaccine hesitancy? And that's the big question that we're asking on the show. Wena muntu omusha, have you vaccinated? Are you planning on getting vaccinated? Please let us know on all of our social media platforms. Now, I know Ujaki and the panelists spoke about breaking some of the myths just before we went to break. But Utsibo is one of those people who says he is not going to vaccinate. He just wants to wait and see.
The doc did mention that our biggest problem really is the issue of misinformation. And I think firstly we need to identify where young people are located, because to a large extent we might have this perception that young people are static about, vaccinating, but to a large extent it's just young people within the suburban areas. Where you go into rural areas and your township, maybe they're not as static, and the reason for that being misinformation. In my regard, yes, the stigma issue. I come from a township, and when you grow up in such an area, there are stigmas, and as black people, sinalento ukuthi singoThomas isikhola ngokubona. So at times you find that as young people, especially when there's so much myth around such a virus and vaccination, I will first need to wait for my friends first to vaccinate for me to have some form of surety that this thing actually does work.
I am actually planning on vaccinating. Reason being, I believe that the youth has actually instilled confidence in a lot of people, right? The conversation around taking the vaccine has actually now broadened, and it actually has instilled confidence amongst even the older. There's one point where it was mentioned that even now, part of taking the vaccine is for promoting it as well, to say that it's also to protect the older people, because it's not only about us as the young people, but also the older ones that actually are more vulnerable in these cases. And I believe that it's about starting a conversation as the youth to say that if us as the youth, we are actually calling on taking the future of this country, I think we must also consider having a safer future for ourselves. And I think taking the vaccine is saying that we are promoting a safer society through healthcare. Therefore, I believe that taking the vaccine is actually the part that I want to play as a young person, and I want to promote a safer and healthier society in South Africa.
Okay. I want to agree with the previous speakers to say there is lack of information, but there is enough information given that a lot of the youth people we're talking about, they are actually on social media every now and then. That means that they are exposed to this information, but now the understanding of the information is an issue. I think one other thing that leads to this hesitancy is the confidence in the vaccine itself, you understand? And also the confidence in the administration, our state, to say, we know that, yes, they have the best interest at heart to say, let's get vaccinated so that we can open the economy. But now when we go to the very same point of opening the economy, we're going to open alcohol, we're going to open everything that they consume as well, and their immunity is not that strong to fight the disease. But I think I'm part of the people that are going to take the vaccine. I have registered, but one thing we must also check is that people can register, but they might delay on getting the vaccine. And in the process of delaying, how many people are going to be affected?
I'm one of the people that would be taking the vaccine, and my choice is personal, and it's both interpersonal. So in it being personal, I'm trying to protect myself, mitigating the potentially fatal risk of not getting vaccinated. And then it's also interpersonal, to say that I am a humanitarian at heart, and I believe that when you just look at our healthcare crisis, you cannot think, or you cannot pause for a second and not think that, how am I going to add by omitting or doing something to better the conditions? So when you look at our healthcare crisis, hospitals are full, and you're trying to protect people on the wrong side of 50. That family member who is chronically ill, that diabetic friend, you're trying to make the situation better. So my decision to get vaccinated is both personal and interpersonal.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for those insights, young people. And of course, what do you have to say, Lapika, about the discussions that we are having today? Now, our social media platforms are open. Just go on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. We continue with this all-important discussion. Masbuya. Stay with us.
You're watching Expressions, your number one youth current affairs show. Today we are talking about vaccination hesitancy, and the poll question that we're asking you, Kochai, is the youth helping South Africa in the fight against vaccine hesitancy? I mean, as a young person, are you skeptical? But obviously, how important is it for you to also contribute to a positive outcome when it comes to vaccination? And of course, we continue our conversation. And I think I just want to ask you, Dr. Sipho, I think as much as there are myths around it, I think the biggest question is, are vaccinations safe?
Yes, I think vaccinations are safe. Especially in our country, we have a body called SAPRA that regulates the production of medicines and other health products. And they are charged with the responsibility to make sure that whatever medication, including vaccines that are out there that reach us as the public, that they have gone through the necessary checks and they are actually declared safe. And what is also of importance is that they don't work alone. They work with their counterparts in other countries like the FDA in America and others in other countries. And so it is not just that they work on their own. There is a body, a collective body of practice of these regulators and scientists who have actually checked that they are actually safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we know that there's Johnson & Johnson and there's Pfizer. I mean, when a young person is now confronted with which one to take, which one is the right vaccine to take? Which one must you take first? Which one must you take last? Which one should you not be taking? Because, I mean, if you watch TikTok, hey.
I think they're both beneficial, okay, in the sense that they are able to prevent these things of serious illness, death, and also, hospitalization. We started with the Pfizer vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson and the Pfizer vaccine later for our health workers. And we are beginning to see that they are actually effective. So I think in our country, we had just said that the Johnson & Johnson one should start in the rural provinces because it's easier, it's just one dose. And then the Pfizer one should be in the more urban provinces like Gauteng, because the logistics of having to refrigerate them and so on are such that it's more conducive in an urban province. But they are both beneficial. It doesn't really matter whether you have Johnson & Johnson or Pfizer. You will be able to get the benefits. Just that with the Pfizer one, you will have to have 2 doses. Yeah.
Okay, and versatile, the side effects. So there are a lot of young people who obviously enthusiastically went out there and got vaccinated. Talk to us about the side effects. What is normal? What is not normal? When should you now go and say, hey, you know what? This might not be a normal side effect from the vaccine, and when is it, just so you don't panic, if that makes any sense. So tell us the difference between the two. What are normal side effects?
Okay, awesome. So with normal side effects, what you would expect after getting the injection is just, a little bit of swelling at the site of injection. But again, this is to be expected with any injection, And again, just a little bit of feverish now and then, a bit of fluish-like symptoms. And this should last you at least a day or 2, and then they should go away on their own. And then when you speak of adverse events now, so this is something very serious, and this should be reported. And when you experience this, you should definitely get help from the clinicians. So when you've got like swelling of the legs, for instance, and then it that takes way longer, maybe up to 30 days after injection. This again doesn't happen to everybody. It's very, very rare, like 1 in a million chances of anybody experiencing such severe adverse events. But like I said, when it happens, you need to seek medical attention ASAP. The good thing is that once it is identified, it is completely treatable. There are no long-term effects afterwards. So it's really, you have nothing to lose by vaccinating, but just more beneficial.
Young people, you have nothing to lose by vaccinating, and hopefully we've given you enough information. Thank you guys for giving us a lot of this insight around vaccination. Hopefully, we've encouraged you to actually vaccinate. So I'm going to throw it back to you and just find out what the audience want to say as we close our episode today.
Well, Jackie, I'm still joined by young people who continue to contribute to this very important conversation that we're having.
I think there is resistance that's currently happening, amongst young people, but also there is, enthusiasm that's going on currently in the media. But what is important during this time is to ensure that, in our circles as young people, we ensure that, we speak to the people that we're close to, we speak to our friends, we try to, encourage those that are kind of having resistance during this time. And it's very much important to, kind of explain to people that don't understand the importance of vaccination, that, these are the benefits. Apart from yourself, you can actually protect other people.
Firstly, it was said confidence in the drug, does it work, what are the side effects? Confidence in the system, the Department of Health, the politicians, government, are they communicating correctly? Can we trust them? There's a trust deficit between the government and citizens. Thirdly, complacency. Let others take it first. Let's see what happens. Fourthly, individual health risk assessment. Am I low risk? If I take these concoctions, spirituality, and so forth, what protects me? Lastly is community contribution, because you'd know in South Africa over a long time now, it's all about I, me, myself, and I. So it's no longer about communal, which is Ziyagezana. So your community contribution, that lacks. But as for me, I would say that I gained some confidence when I listened to an actual doctor at the rock face of everything at a hospital, telling me that since vaccination has begun, they've seen drops in terms of the staff there, themselves as well. That's where I got my confidence, not necessarily from government and its reps, but from people who are working in a hospital and dealing with these cases on a day-to-day basis. So thanks.
Thank you so very much for that, and thank you so much to our audience for joining us namhlanje, braving the elements. We always appreciate having you guys on the show, and thank you as well to our panelists this evening. Jackie, and young people must also remember that it is not mandatory for them to take a vaccine. It's up to you whether you want to take the vaccine or not. And we hope, as Expressions, we started the conversation. It's up to you, Mundumusha, to make an informed choice.
Absolutely. And if you're hesitant and you feel there's a lot of skepticism around it, hopefully today's episode has actually enlightened you a little bit more around this issue around vaccination, because it's not just what you do for yourself, it's also what we do for other people in our lives, right, Mko?
Well, and thank you so much for your participation in Kundlen Zethu Zokuxhumana. Ngithi sonke la Expressions. Till next time, nisale kahle.
Adios, muchachos. Thanks for watching. Bye.